This is the RPM Podcast, starring
Eric No Gag Reflex Brennan.
I've been playing with these things all night. I have always been a fan of prison.
Is that why you're walking funny?
It's a problem. Staten Island Jim's dad was there on like TMZ looking at a Kardashian. That's huge. He spanked him. I think I owe you about 10 of those. Doesn't make sense.
Eric Graham.
It was the Baku of NASCAR races. You get your skirt dirty, it's a bad thing. There's more contact in Formula One than there is in NASCAR. They're both turds. I'm not happy till there's bump and runs. Sometimes you see bump and splats.
Sam.
3 pumps.
Ballard Jr.
I know you're listening to the show. He's my cousin. Leave him alone. I like dirty skirts.
And Josh Matthews.
I got nothing.
My neighbor's borrowing a tool. That's also because of the bumps. That was creepy.
You're getting nifty. not only is he cutting up segments of the stupid things we say, but he's mashing them together now. I don't remember ever saying I was a fan of prison, but apparently I did. So here we are. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the RPM Podcast. I'm losing track of what episode number we're on. Is it 23?
Yeah, this is 23.
We're moving along. We're almost at half a. We are at half a year. We're beyond half a year. Wait, I can't do math.
Oh, gosh.
46. Oh, it's going to be a good episode. Can't
52 divided by 2.
I can't
It's
do math.
26.
26. We're 3 weeks out.
Oh, he works in prison, folks.
The educational system is involved.
Education.
I'm not the math major. I'm not.
Clearly.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Brennan. Joined this afternoon or evening or whatever you want to call it by our buddy Sam Ballard, who's back after a week in Manhattan. That had to be hell.
Got some scars here.
And I'm a New Yorker, and I know what that's like. And, of course, the man who puts everything together here at the Matthews Family Studios, our buddy Josh Matthews.
Hey.
Our friend Eric Graham would have been here. However, 2 things happened, one of which I was late, and 2, he threw a hissy fit about it. So we're hoping he'll be back next week, and I'll probably be getting a pow-pow for saying that. But that's okay.
Yeah, you're going to get
friends here. So, what? Why to get awkwardly silent? Listen, I ended up being late. I had a 40-minute conversation on the phone with somebody.
That has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it.
It hindered my chance to try to text you guys.
Word.
Wait, can you not text while on the phone?
Well,
There's something called speakerphone.
it depends on where you are, I think. 'Cause
Over there.
Sometimes the cellular data drops out. No, I'm being serious.
Over there.
Honestly, that's.
Just so you know, with AT&T, you can like talk and send pictures and stuff at the same time.
I am with the monopoly of Verizon. Okay,
That-
and
I
will
feel so
continue
bad
to
for
take
you.
it from behind by my cell provider
They,
until something better happens.
So, what about racing?
I know someone that you know that just got excited.
Well, anyway, moving forward, hopefully Eric should be back next week. I'm not sure about my
Oh, my
status.
gosh.
Somewhere else where it may be incredibly hard to get cell reception is Pocono, especially with this past week.
Oh, hey.
That's your segue, huh?
Wow.
Considering you got a better idea. Considering how the weather was. Now, it's no surprise when you go to Pocono, you expect it to rain. In fact, my
It rained
first
in
race
Pocono?
there ever, yes, was June of 2000, and it rained. And that was the infamous Father's Day weekend event that Eric Graham alludes to because it was the bump and run between Mayfield and Earnhardt. We did have drama, not of that level, but of a level that, and I'll refer to an article that Matt Weaver wrote for Racer.com, and in fact, I'm going to refer to that a lot. It's just what happened yesterday, as the race got moved to Monday, was something that we would kick around, at the bar table or in the pits after the races of one of those, like, what-if scenarios of, like, an underdog, underfunded team, pulled off a miracle upset by playing the pit strategy right, and it actually happened. And it's a great story, nevertheless. But there seems to be a divide amongst fans, and I'm a little confused about it all. And Josh, I know that you were reading a couple of fan articles earlier, and for me, when I saw that Buescher was leading and the race was stopped, I kind of wouldn't have minded if the race ended at that point. One of which because I knew I wasn't going to be able to see the race anyway. And second of all, it's a hell of a story. And in fact, as I sit right now, he's not even in
Why
the
is it a
chase.
hell of a story?
If you look at that team...
Wait, hey.
It's a Ford, and it won a race.
Well, Roger Penske would disagree with you.
All
Okay?
right. Now,
True. Okay.
jokes aside, thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. That was
That
fun.
was for Josh.
Now, okay, rookie first. I mean, okay.
Well, here's
cool.
the thing. And we talked about this in our first episode ever. And Sam, I know you weren't here, but maybe you could allude to this. We were talking about the Rookie of the Year battle and who would win. And, of course, the first two that pop into your head are Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott. Chris Buescher and Brian Scott were kind of like an afterthought. And look who gets to strike first by grabbing his first career win. Regardless of the circumstances, Chris Buescher is the first rookie to win a race in 2016, and he did it with a team that has only won one race before as an organization.
Okay, so make a note of it and on to the next race. I'm not excited about that. I know a lot of people are like, call it now, let him have the win. I'm like, but that's not racing. One saying, call the race now and hurry up. The fans wanting that. One, if anything, NASCAR is going to do the opposite because that's unsportsmanlike, really, on their part. But okay, good for him. That's cool. That's great. That's awesome for him. But for on a fan level, I'm like, all right, cool. The rookie won. Good job for him. And on to the next one. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying there's anything to dislike about him, but. Meh, it's a rain thing. He happened to be in the right spot at the right time, and the weather played a part, and it was close to the end anyway, so he had a good shot, but it just didn't.
Now, I get what you're
pop.
saying. It's perhaps you could relate it to something like the Indy 500, where the expectations were so high, and it came down to something where a driver coasted across the finish line at the end. Even though it was a young American winner, it didn't have the same pow as if Buescher would have did it
I'm
by
not saying
making a last lap pass or something.
I think
it didn't need to be a 3-wide. He nosed him out at the very last second. It didn't need to be that to be something. I mean, that would be awesome and amazing, but it didn't need to be that. It just was. I don't know. Cool. All right, write that down in the notebook.
I mean, a lot of people are surprised about this, but he won the Xfinity Championship last year.
Right, and this is where I think this gets interesting is.
Did you just try to say interesting?
Yeah, I'm a little dry tonight. If Buescher, now right now he's out of the chase.
That.
He's really. We're gonna go there. Eric's not even here, and you're gonna go there. Right now,
he's my cousin.
Buescher
Leave him alone, right?
Buescher's out. I gave one swipe at him, and that's it. I'm done for the night. Buescher's out of the chase by 6 points. Here's the thing: all the other Roush contenders right now are kind of on the outside looking in. Let's just say, for argument's sakes, that Buescher is the upset number 16 seed to make it into the chase. And in fact, he wouldn't even be the number 16 seed because he would be seated higher than guys who point their way in and don't have a win if he gets top 30. How cool would it be to see the Ford emblem and the Ford banner and the Ford teams kind of rally behind Buescher for a championship run with support that he hasn't had all season long?
I think that'd be more of a Roush thing because Penske's going to...
Right. Penske's kind of separated from the Blue Oval bunch in terms of the rest of the field. But I think Buescher would have more support. In fact, it may begin now. It may begin this weekend at Watkins Glen to try to help him get in that top 30 and get him going.
Well, you have a lot of wild card. Watkins Glen, even Richmond. Richmond comes down to a lot of wild card, factors there for the chase now.
Absolutely. And that target is going to be shifting. Like right now we have Larson and McMurray all kind of on the bubble. Chase Elliott's had an abysmal last 2 months. It's been hard. In fact, again, citing Matt Weaver in the article that he put together, this is the first time since 2002 that Hendrick Motorsports has been held to only 2 wins in the first 21 races of the season. That team, that 4-car organization, is struggling, and that includes that of the 88 bunch, which was just announced today that Dale Earnhardt Jr. will be out for at least another 2 races, leaving Jeff Gordon in the car for Watkins Glen and Bristol.
Yep, that's like the top thing on my Facebook little news thing on the side.
I think it just got old. No, I mean I'm a Hendrick guy, junior, yeah, let's go. But it's just old. Let's talk about new stuff. Like even Jeff Gordon says he's getting his butt whipped in the car. I mean, it's hard to see.
I don't think it's a Gordon thing. Look at Jimmy Johnson, finished 15th or so at Pocono. I mean, that team is struggling. We haven't seen that in quite a long time. And on the junior front, you guys, I'm getting to a point where I'm concerned. I'm beginning to wonder slightly if we've seen Dale Earnhardt Jr. compete for the last time. If these conditions do not begin to improve, in fact, I think he said on his own podcast, the Dirty Mo Radio podcast that he hosts every Monday.
Sounds like podcast.
I had a hiccup.
Something that hippie girl we heard earlier would have said.
My goodness.
Oh, nice.
Last week he said the symptoms were getting better. This week he said they got a little worse. Well, if it doesn't get any better, And now doctors are trying to pinpoint that minor wreck that he had at Michigan as being the cause of all this. Why would he get back in a car and risk this from happening all over again, perhaps even worse, or perhaps doing more damage?
Because why
I
not?
don't know.
Because
he loves the sport.
Because he loves racing, as we talked about last week. Finish out the year. I mean, get better, finish it out, and then he doesn't have to return next year. Or he can run select races in the future if he enjoys them. Like he might choose to run Atlanta next year if it looks like it's going to be a good race. But then he could sit out a bunch of, pick and choose. Drivers have done that, but Mark Martin did that for how long?
Right, and I think, and here's the other thing. By Jeff Gordon agreeing to sign on for these next few races, and he was quoted last week at Pocono
Was
saying
he tired of doing the media stuff?
he's in it for the long haul. I have that feeling that he's Mark Martin in it, that he kind of misses driving after that first half of the year.
You think so?
And he
I
wanted to
think
get
it's
back
the
in
opposite.
But there's plenty of options for somebody else to get in that.
Why do you think it's the opposite, Sam?
I don't know. I think from what he said in the past, like, I hope this is my last Indianapolis 400. I think that, it's all not saying it's scripted for what he's saying. Like, all right, want Junior to get better, keep his name on the car, don't change anything. This is Dale Jr.'s team. But at the end of the day, I think that he was ready to close the chapter in his life. But, when Rick Hendrick calls,
to do it a couple times is with also a lot less pressure.
Okay.
I think. For me, when I had to every week, I had to go through my car and stuff like that. And with a full-time job, I don't know how these guys do it. To pretty much rebuild cars in a couple days and then be back at the track Saturday. I don't know how they do it. I know they have help from crews and whatnot, but I have a factory stock, one of the least maintained vehicles, they require some of the least maintenance. Let's put it that way. Aside from, whack it a couple times, make sure the tire's not going to rub, and off you go for the next week. I know some guys put a lot of money into making it look nice, and I appreciate that. But, part of what the division was based on was cheap, fun racing.
But it does take a toll on you.
Well, it's a lot of effort. But when I got to run Tim O'Shea's car a couple times, our O'Shea's Auto Repair,
one of our biggest supporters, along with SR Fabrications. It's great when you get the sponsor. Sorry, Steven. I'm exhausted. Don't mind me.
Anyway. Oh, and Ace in the Hole Landscaping.
Oh, they just jumped on board?
Yeah. I got to get the logo from him.
Checks are rolling in.
Yeah.
They're rolling in.
I think he agreed to buy beer.
It's an even trade.
We'll put your thing here and beer. All right. But when I got to hop in that car, it wasn't show up and run so much as, I did haul it there and we did some prep work, prior to that. But, it wasn't the, here's the problem that I've been chasing and I'm trying to, just all the stuff that I'm thinking about my car is like, this is a different car. I can't think about anything. I don't know what it's going to do. It's not the same at all. And otherwise it was kind of pick it up, go to the track, hop in and, and go. And it was just the stress is so different because you don't want to damage anything because trust me, if you break it, you got to fix it. So like if I ripped off the right front, I gotta either pay or do the work to put a new right front on the thing.
Right.
But to not worry as much about the setup and was the oil change and this and,
right. And on Gordon's side, you have to look at it as he's not responsible at least as of now. For the sponsor commitments. He's not responsible for a lot of the meet and greets that Junior was probably scheduled to do. He doesn't have to worry about points or the chase or anything like that. This is
right
like
there. That was the other
Josh.
thing. There were a few years we ran for points. And I think in my second year I got fourth in points, which is I'm really proud of that. Right. I am. Especially, to second year in the division. But there's so much stress. Like even if we know that there's something not right with the car, you still got to go. You make every effort. Like, whereas maybe we could have done a more complete teardown and gone through it more, and tried to really figure out what was going on and learn more about it. It was no, we can only go this far with it because we need to make sure we have time to put it back together and get back to the track.
Yeah.
And when you're concerned with points, it puts a lot more pressure on you to just get there.
Well, besides the obvious answer of sponsors, maybe a lot of fans think, well, if that's the case, why are they running the car?
Well, there's a number of reasons why. The sponsorship has to be one of them. The second one would have to be Junior's brand, because that's still alive and still intact.
Yeah.
And the car still deserves to be out there. I mean, then, of course, there's the guys that are employed by the team. I mean, what are you going to do with them if you just hit the car home? You know, and the other thing is, now with the charter rule,
Save money.
these teams, but here's the thing. These teams are essentially franchised. I mean, you're guaranteed a starting spot in the field. You might as well show up and do something, and you might as well give it, a Hail Mary. And like I was saying earlier, they had Bowman in the car because Gordon wasn't available at New Hampshire. You got the JR Motorsports guys like Sadler and Allgaier, and, I don't think they should put Josh Berry in the car because he just ran a race at Iowa. But there is a list of drivers there in the arsenal for Hendrick Motorsports, and the fact that Gordon keeps coming back to the track with his fire suit and helmet, I think he missed doing it for a little while. And I'm really excited to see what he could do at Watkins Glen. Gordon, always known to be really good on road courses. I'm excited to see what he has put forth then. I think if rain hits this weekend, they may still race. I think there is a Goodyear prepared rain tire that will be in Watkins Glen, and the little kid inside of me is kind of hoping we see it.
I would like, because they did that with the Xfinity Series a few years back, but they also had that they did have like that single windshield wiper.
Well, Danica said something like that at Pocono. Interview she gave before the race was, I was getting ready to put the rain tires on, but we're not at Watkins Glen. We're at Pocono.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to watch for sure. And hopefully we have another surprise winner up there. If A.J. Allmendinger gets in the mix and grabs a win, Jamie McMurray and Clint Boyer are known to be pretty decent road racers.
How was the truck
Won't
race?
have a win. The Truck Series race was eventful. In fact, I think they only had the longest green flag run might have been about 7 laps.
So the caution clock wasn't even part of it.
No, they just kept wrecking. Continuously wrecking. And the win ended up going to William Byron. I believe he has the most wins ever for a rookie.
Did they put sportsman drivers in it?
No, it was
trucks.
Just rough. I mean,
John West Townley back.
He was one of them. He was. Him and Eric Jones got together. Daniel
Zach
Hemrick and Tyler Reddick got
clock.
together. It was a wild one. So the trucks have some time off till they hit the track, which is actually going to be, I think, a week from.
Find that schedule. Oh no, can't have dead air.
2 weeks from tomorrow, because I forgot the off week for the Cup Series is next week. So you guys are going to have a lot of fun stuff to talk about leading up to that.
Yippee.
Because it'll be the Glen off-week Bristol. So
What Brennan's alluding to is that he is not going to be on the next episode.
A few years ago, in the NASCAR Xfinity race at Michigan, then nationwide, ESPN did this thing where they just had color commentators. I think it was Ray Evernham, Rusty Wallace, Andy Petrie.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember who the fourth one was. Dale Jarrett.
As I say, yeah.
So all 4 of them were the only ones in the booth for the entire Xfinity Series race, and it ended up coming down to like a 3-car battle for the win between Kyle Busch, Brian Vickers, and Brad Keselowski. And they were swapping the lead and all this stuff, and it was all color commentator guys. That's what I plan on this show being next week.
Was it good or bad?
It was okay. There was it was really fun and loose and energetic and not as
he called us
suited
loose.
up. And I did.
Take my dirty skirt home.
And that's what I expect it to be next week is not as polished, not as prime, but still entertaining. Perhaps more entertaining. Perhaps I'm nervous.
I have a special intro for you.
I'm petrified.
Anyway, but scheduling conflicts and this and that, Brendan will not be on the show next week. Graham should be here. Sam should be here. I'll be here. It's my house.
Then the question is, does Graham hold out for the remainder of his contract? And for those of you wondering, there really is no contract. Just to put a bow and ribbon on the NASCAR stuff, the Xfinity Series raced at the Iowa Speedway. The majority of this show ended up hanging out at Woody's Roadside Tavern to watch that one, in which it looked like Ty Dillon was going to grab himself a win and lock himself into the chase, even though he is the highest driver in points without a win on the Xfinity side, until Eric Jones chased him down and got around him and got the win late. A race that looked pretty tame for the most part, but not too wild, not too crazy. But again, it's one of the only standalone races the Xfinity Series has. I wish I saw more of that as well. But that's pretty much it for the NASCAR stuff.
How was the crowd there?
At Iowa, it looked decent. It wasn't perfect because I think the only companion event they had with them was what our buddy Kyle McGowan was doing with the K&N Series on Friday.
Right.
And then, of course, ARCA, for whatever reason, ARCA ran there, I think, a couple weeks ago.
They did.
With IndyCar.
Didn't ARCA run this weekend?
ARCA did at Pocono. In fact, the biggest story that came out of the ARCA race, aside from Chase Briscoe winning another race in that division, was the car of Gus Dean that lost a brake line getting into its pit and actually struck a tire carrier and a jackman. And it looked like the impact knocked the jackman out cold. Fortunately, we saw him come to after a little while. They put a neck brace on him, and they got him uprighted. And then I come to read a couple days later that a GoFundMe account has been established for the jackman because it turns out that he has a couple of internal injuries, including 2 small brain bleeds, which is terrifying when you think of it.
Well, when you look at that replay at full speed, it was
miracle. It wasn't worse.
Yeah,
absolute miracle.
But you want to know what? I have a lot of up in North Jersey there, or Central Jersey, whatever you want to call it. I have a lot of friends of mine that don't think racing is a sport. And when you see stuff like that, and you don't want to see stuff like that at a racetrack, no matter where you go, this thing, even those pit crew guys, I mean, not just the drivers, they're all athletes.
Oh, they are.
And they had the instinct to jump, pretty much try to jump over the car. And, I mean, they did the best they could to avoid it. But
They got in the best possible scenario at that point, once the car failed and they were already in front of it. But I mean, most of the pit crews, I mean, they're failed football stars. That's kind of a mean way to put it, but I mean, that's kind of what they do. Is they get recruited like, all right, you're pretty good, but if you want, we got a job for you. If you don't want to, worry about concussions. Oops.
Well,
Oops.
Yeah.
But it's funny because in my Facebook has that like memories thing or whatever. I think it was like today or yesterday. It came up bowling for pit crew members. Was because who was it? Kenseth or who was it that a year or two ago at Pocono took out or hit some crew members.
It's happening.
It was they
Can't
replayed it when
exactly
they came up in conversation with their commentators over it, but yeah, I don't know if it's a Pocono thing or if it's just a bad luck thing.
For John House, who's the name of the jackman that was struck by Gus Dean on pit road, the official diagnosis was after multiple CT scans, he was diagnosed with 2 small brain bleeds, a concussion, some symptoms of short-term memory loss, a broken toe, bruised tailbone, and multiple bruises that will leave him in ICU for potentially up to 5 days. The tire carrier, Pedro Martinez, no, not the former Boston Red Sox pitcher, he was treated and released at the Infield Care Center, so he is going to be okay. And again, there was a GoFundMe account set up. Our link to that is available from foxsports.com. Could have been so much worse.
I'm not sure the short-term memory loss is really indicative. I think that most people that play football would have that issue.
Sam, I was waiting on you to pull the trigger on something.
Well, the second guy was working on a truck team. I think it was the Brad Keselowski truck he was changing tires for, so he seems to be okay.
He bounced back pretty quickly. So good to see. I'm glad
Bad
that the
pun.
weekend didn't end on a tragic note.
Yeah.
It worked out pretty well. And that's pretty much it for the stock car portion of the program. When we come back, we're going to take the fenders off. We'll talk some IndyCar racing at Mid-Ohio, which would have been the big story of the weekend if it wasn't for Buescher's upset in Pocono. We'll also talk about Formula One. And maybe we'll continue arguing about that headline. And we also have a couple short track stories we want to get to a little bit later on, including how old are those drivers at your racetrack? We'll tell you more about that in a little while. You're listening to the RPM Podcast. Don't go anywhere. Hey everyone, this is Eric Brennan from the RPM Podcast. Want to get in touch with us? Send us an email at racingpodcastnj@gmail.com. And yes, hate mail for Josh is encouraged. Welcome back to the RPM Podcast. I'm Eric Brennan, alongside of Sam Ballard, and across from our buddy Josh Matthews. As we mentioned, Eric Graham has the night off. He should be back in a big capacity next week. Might be steering the ship. It'll be fun to watch. I encourage you all to tune in. What? That wasn't a joke. I was being serious. Man,
that was so a joke.
You guys are rough. So rough. I was not going down that road.
We just called you out on it, that's all.
Are the two of you familiar with the website racingreference.com?
Nope.
Well, it's this incredible plethora of information and statistics and race
SAT
results from all the
word.
way back in the day. It's got a database that you can search by driver, track, and crew.
So something that I would have no interest in anyway.
Oh, of course you would.
like the announcers.
No, but I mean, if you're into any type of fantasy sports or
Does it say who
whatever.
announced the 1981?
No, it's more driver related. In fact, some of our drivers from Wall Stadium are on there because of some of the work that they have done on the touring division or
What was it? Like Ryan Preece was up there running.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
they're
running.
all on there. Andrew Krause is in there now as a rookie in the modified division. You get the Blewett family that's in there. However, there's something rather concerning that came down from the Twitter handle of that, and that is from the owner of the site, Alan. It says, because of some serious health issues I am facing effective immediately, the site cannot accept comments and blogs and may not get updated. He has not since followed through, but it's amazing how many people have reached out to him since. You mentioned media members, Jeff Gluck. Looks like I'm having a brain fart here.
Yep.
Guys like Matt Weaver, who we referenced to his articles weekly from Racer.com. Matt Yoakum, Fox Sports and NBC pit reporter. Mike Massaro, NBC pit reporter. And the list just actually goes on and on and on. Man, tough luck there. I hope you're feeling better, Alan. And it's I use that website every week because that's what helps me set my suicide pools, my fantasy lineups and stuff, so I can try to make a couple bucks. Not that I have a gambling problem or anything. I just, like to bet. So with that, we're going to move on to something in which Racing Reference would help out with a lot, and that is the IndyCar Series, specifically their trips to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Now, the name of the track itself should lend you to believe that it's not your most opportune track for open-wheel racing. Now, when the Xfinity Series
I disagree.
It's the races have been rough.
Where is
to
it?
watch.
Mid-Ohio?
Yes. It's in the middle of Ohio.
It's in the name, yeah.
But it was designed for sports cars. It was not necessarily designed for, IndyCar, open wheels. And it shows when you watch the start and the restart of the races because they start on the backstretch and they finish the race on a more condensed front stretch. So with that in mind, it goes to show you how difficult the track layout is.
It's a little weird.
It's a little odd.
But
this may have been...
I don't know that you can fully argue it because, it doesn't Daytona or Talladega have you start here, but the finish is, or it's not centered in the tri-oval like it normally would be?
No, I mean, they don't start and end the race in the same spot on the track.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, they have weird...
No, but at least
Go ahead.
the
Just
green
ignore
flag
me.
and the checkered flag flies at the same point.
Yeah.
At Mid-Ohio, it doesn't. It's in two different parts of the
No,
racetrack.
I understand that. I was just...
It's weird. I don't get it. This is too complicated for
Well,
me.
actually, it might make sense if you went for a certain mile distance. You know how you call it the 500, but it's a 2.5 mile track. So
I would have never thought of that. I know where you're going. Yes.
I'm just saying, like if we
in
wanted to call it the
theory,
200,
the race
well, it
distance
ends here.
would
But
change.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
I don't know. I feel like I'm letting you guys down. Eric Graham would probably be sitting here explaining to you guys why they do
No, the
what
reason
they
why
do.
they do it is because they want to give the cars and drivers enough room to make that start. Because that front stretch at Mid-Ohio is incredibly short. I mean, it's probably one of the smallest front straightaways in road course racing. It's that tiny. So to expect to have 22 to 25 Indy cars, you're laughing at the
I didn't
drop
laugh.
opportunity.
Go ahead,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
laugh.
It's hard to have that many Indy cars on such a small portion of a racetrack and to have a clean start. In fact, they're lucky they got away with a clean one on the back straightaway. But nevertheless, the race went off without a hitch. It looked like Simon Pagenaud, who experienced back problems all weekend long, was going to have the car to beat, regardless of his teammate and point combatant Will Power's efforts of trying to keep pace with the new or newest driver of the Penske Racing family.
Will Power's getting into a little groove.
He is, and that's all the more remarkable because he missed the opener. But suddenly, an untimely caution about a third of the way through the race put the young Russian Mikhail Aloshin out front for the Sam Schmidt team. And from that
Say that
point
5
forward,
times fast.
I became one of the biggest fans of Mikhail Aloshin. I love that little Russian racer. And if you go back to the way in which you look at his racing career, first of all, he came to the Schmidt-Peterson team without much experience and much help from overseas back in about 2013, 14. Then he had a savage crash at California where he got badly injured after getting up into the catch fence in practice. Well, he wanted to come back in 2015, but a problem with the sponsorship that he had and the clearing of the check from overseas and to the States hindered him from being able to come back and compete full time. So he sat out a year. Came back in 2016, has shown that he's had the speed despite driving for what appears to be an underperforming Honda development team. Teamed up with James Hinchcliffe, has run well on ovals, street courses, road courses, and it looked like he was going to get that first win until the last pit stop of the race.
There was no fog.
Exactly. He needed fog. He needed lots and lots of fog. That was a good one.
I was sort of half distracted trying to get something to work on this tablet here, and that stuck. That was funny.
While exiting his pit, Aloshin
Thanks,
collided
Josh.
with Joseph Newgarden, who suffered an early penalty, and Aloshin's race went kaput. We were then subject to a fantastic battle amongst teammates where they actually made a lot of contact between Pagano and Power, and that was awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure Penske was.
So was there more contact in Indy than NASCAR?
Probably equal, because there was that battle in the lead between Larson and Dillon that was pretty thrilling, where they were bouncing off each other and ducking and dodging.
Oh wait,
and
we forgot to
blocking.
ask. What did you rate the Pocono race?
I didn't watch the whole race in its entirety, but judging by what I did see, I would give it a fair 7 because it looked like there was a lot of passing. Did you watch the whole thing?
I
Or-
did. Well, I slept during most of it.
I saw Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott
I worked
bouncing off
during
each other.
the whole
I
thing.
saw Larson and Dillon having a thrilling battle for the lead that lasted a handful of laps. I saw cars getting out of control on their own. I saw the guys playing the strategy towards the end and try to get a great. By the way, we didn't give a tip of the cap to Tommy Baldwin racing and Regan Smith, who got third. So not to get back on the NASCAR train, but
Yeah,
I give it a 7.
Okay, that's fine.
What do you rate Mid Ohio then?
Man, that's tough. You know what? Now that well,
Patiently waiting.
I'm sorry. Now that you put it on that type of
Hang
scale,
on, I gotta cue the Jeopardy music.
oh crap.
Well, while he thinks about that, they had the IndyCar guys on Family Feud,
They did? Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
and they
Wait,
won
was it with-
$25,000.
Was it with the Bachelor contestants?
Oh, I have no
Or was it
idea.
with the stand up with the sports?
Go back to thinking about your
Yeah.
rating. You're not in this.
I was going to say,
There we go. Okay, he's muted. So anyway, so was it willpower? And you were told to think about your rating.
I probably should give Mid Ohio an 8 because
Okay.
we saw Dixon and Castro Neves get together early, which kind of
Which was
was a little dramatic.
Ugh.
There was good racing and passing throughout the field. Man, I just wish the Aloshin storyline went to the finish. I want that little kid to win so bad.
But see, that's what's part of racing. This is why I don't understand. I mean, a lot of people bet on horse racing.
Mhm.
Now, I think there's multiple tracks in Jersey, right? I mean, Monmouth Park and Freehold.
Freehold's still around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is? I didn't know that.
Now, I don't like horse racing. I don't.
You're not alone.
Not
my
entertaining
thing.
to me, and
I like it.
I mean, if I'm in a place that has like an OTB and I had a few drinks, I will put money on anything. So it's not that hard. But I'm not into sitting there and watching. First of all, they're way too slow. My
All right,
opinion.
but hey, let's get past this.
Just saying.
What I'm trying to get at is, there's stats. It's all about stats. I mean, unless something very dramatic happens, otherwise it's all based on stats. Racing, you do have stats. You do have your guys that have been performing well and tend to perform well, and you got your higher rated teams, your big money teams, things like that, and you have your back markers. Okay. But anything can happen. Anybody can blow a motor. Anybody can get caught up in a wreck. I mean, wouldn't it be more exciting to bet on racing, something like NASCAR, than horse racing? I mean, if you want to, people's like, oh, why don't you man up or something like that? I think you bet on NASCAR or auto racing instead of horse racing because I think there's more chance.
Well, and I think
Well, there is
you have.
mechanically and
Think about it. It's
Stupid
not
drivers.
just not the stats of the driver. I mean, what if the engineer or mechanic screwed something up and kaplooey?
if that's the case, for those who bet on Chris Buescher in Pocono, they'd be like billionaires.
The odds in Las Vegas were 1,000 to 1 that Buescher would win that race. So that's pretty incredible.
But that's my point.
And then, I mean, if you look at, by the way, just put a period on the IndyCar story. Pagano got around Power, went on to win the race, extend the point lead. The series has a couple weeks off before they head to Pocono on August 21st. Our buddy
Yeah.
Earl Krause will be there. On the NASCAR side, though, I forgot to mention this in the opening segment. Our buddy Martin Truex Jr., do you guys know what happened to him after he had one of the fastest cars in Pocono?
But
He had the pole, didn't he?
He did.
What doesn't happen to Martin Truex Jr.?
Well, we talked about, I think it was Texas or Kansas, where they had that countersunk bolt that backed out and got in the way of the wheel. On Monday, they went to go hit the lug nuts with the gun, and apparently one of the nuts spun off and hit the valve stem of the tire, and that's why the tire went down right after the restart. I mean, those lug nuts fly all over the place, and we see them especially at night races when cars are leaving and they run them over. They create little sparks.
Yeah.
That's known to happen. What are the odds of it flicking down and tagging the valve stem hard enough for it to leak out the next restart and put it into the fence?
It doesn't happen more often, really.
That's like trying to hit, a target with
Yeah,
a dart from 100 yards away.
Well, what was it? A few weeks ago, Hamlin had one fall into his cockpit with him.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. It spun right in.
I mean, it's understanding, though, they're going to go play. I'm surprised more crew guys don't get hit with them, to be honest with you. But now with them all wearing helmets, they may not even notice it. So, oh, my goodness. But for that to happen, but that just goes right back to your point, Josh. Really, and that's why I think Buescher winning was such a big story. I know we're circling back to this, but it's just happening organically. That's why I think it's such a big story, because it's further proof that anything can happen in motorsports.
Yeah.
Now, the one sport this past weekend where we kind of thought we knew what the results were going to be was Formula One, where, surprise, surprise, Nico Rosberg continues to have his struggles and his problems, and it ended up being Lewis Hamilton getting the win this past weekend in Germany. Now, I didn't watch the whole race. A lot was made of Daniel Ricciardo and his 100th Formula One start as he rounded out the podium. I don't know. I didn't get to see a whole lot of the race.
Well, Rosberg, his problem started at the start. I mean, Hamilton got a great launch. Rosberg had a terrible launch. Both the Red Bull cars got right around him.
They had wings.
Yeah.
Touche, my friend.
But, I mean, I just think that the outcome was predicted. I mean, Lewis Hamilton's on a roll, and, I mean, Nico was just all over the place.
Yeah.
All right, Nico also made a total douchebag move. He did. You saw it. Did you see the replay of it?
No.
Okay. You remember what he did to Hamilton?
Yes.
What did he do to Hamilton?
You're talking about the Rosberg incident.
Yeah.
When he
drove.
Eric said
straight.
What did Rosberg do to Hamilton a couple races ago?
Oh, I'm thinking back to the first one where he made the mistake on the start. And he
No. I'm talking
here.
about towards the end.
No mistake.
He kind of drove right up into him.
Yeah. He did it again.
He was like driving in the middle turn, and he was like, "Oh, hey, Apex. Oh, there you go. Turn right."
That whole thing is very bizarre.
It's not bizarre. He knows what he's doing.
He moved over. He ducked to the inside line, tried to outbrake him. Who was that against?
Max Verstappen.
Verstappen. Okay. Now over the radio, Rosberg says, I was at full lock. I couldn't do anything more because they ended up giving him, 5-second penalty?
Yeah, which is nothing for what he did.
Yeah. He went in, he moved right just a little bit to get to that inside line, and then just kind of held it there and drove Verstappen off the track and then goes to full lock. Yeah, he was full lock after Verstappen was already off the track.
He drove from apex to the outside white line. It was like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
Something that Eric Graham alluded to a few weeks back. It's almost like you can see the unraveling beginning to grow longer for Rosberg. It's almost like things are falling apart, but now they're drastically
But see, the thing was,
apart.
he was probably going to have a podium position.
Oh, he was.
If he didn't do that, then he got penalized for it. And then the crew, now there was a 5-second penalty where he was going to pit. They wait 5 seconds, then they start on the car. But they waited 8 seconds.
Mercedes can't afford a stopwatch, and they counted 1, 8, oh.
They had a broken tag Heuer from a few years ago. But it was an unnecessary douchebag move on Rosberg's part. I mean, it wasn't necessary. Even the commentators were. They were ripping on him. It was awesome. I wish you had watched it.
I actually misspoke. Ricardo finished second behind Hamilton. Then it was Verstappen and rounded out the podium. The aforementioned Rosberg was fourth.
Who is it that's looking like they're losing their ride, unfortunately?
One of the Williams teams apparently is looking at a shift. Jensen Button is rumored to be going to that team. Not sure if it's going to be Massa or Bottas who's on the way out.
Okay.
One of the big news now is that Red Bull is past Ferrari in the
Constructor
Championship, and by a big margin too.
You're new to F1,
Big
and you
margin.
are into this.
Oh yeah, I'm a big. I like F1. I think they're the best racing right now that we have. Now, my dad, who probably will be watching the show, would totally disagree and probably disown me as his son because he's like yourself. He's into the Fender cars. But no, I mean it's great.
But here's the thing.
great.
If he's like me and prefers the fenders, which that's supposed to be more of the action, they're not providing it in NASCAR right now.
They're teasing us.
We have to look elsewhere, and F1 is creating a better show right now.
No,
I'm not saying that's how it should be. I'm just saying that's what's happening.
yeah, and I it was also cool.
Make your dad watch it.
Oh, I did. He fell asleep during the IndyCar race. He's like, I'm
well.
not watching this.
Now, the other bit of off-track news that we were talking about last week was that Bernie Ecclestone's mother-in-law was actually kidnapped.
They mentioned it. They did not say anything as rude as what we said.
No. Well, and again, it's a good thing we could joke about it because the situation is now over. And in fact, a former helicopter pilot who has worked with Bernie Ecclestone in the past has been arrested for being the alleged mastermind behind the kidnapping of his mother-in-law.
I love how they use the term mastermind.
Again, she is in fact safe. So that situation is now over. Although
It's basically what happens when you go to Brazil.
I kind of feel like that Bernie went on to the German Grand Prix like it was business as usual.
I
No
mean,
big
He
deal.
did, and all they were like, I can't believe he's actually here. And I'm thinking, why would he care?
Yeah, it's not my mom.
Whole thing's incredibly bizarre. So Formula One's going to be off for a little while for their summer break. Hopefully it gives the other teams like Red Bull, Ferrari, even Force India, who looked like they showed some.
I was about to
muscle
say
a few
that
races
Force
ago.
India was coming back.
And they appear to have.
Was it 2 cars in the top 10?
Yeah, they were doing really well. Even the Haas team started off
They,
really strong. Now they're a
Haas
little more
finished out of the
inconsistent.
points, I believe, unfortunately. But they they actually made a point. They say it's we owe them so much more in credit for what they've accomplished. It's just that they started off so well and they maintained it that it seemed business as usual for them to be up there. But this is their first year. This is amazing that they're 28 points. I think they've earned.
Yeah.
And in NASCAR, NASCAR's point system is wacky, and F1's is a little under, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know how to make me happy on this one, but
Sounds like a personal problem, Josh.
Don't we know?
You may know. I don't know. But no, I thought it was the better race of this weekend. I thought that
organize those words.
Yeah, best, better, good. It was much gooder than the Cup race.
I'm starting to feel like you are your cousin's cousin because I want to argue with you, but I didn't watch the entire F1 race, so I don't have much of a leg to stand on.
Well, there was no fog,
But I promise we will find.
and we saw
There was some
Dan
rain
drink out of
coming
the
in.
boot, which I thought was really a neat thing. to
I
have him-
didn't.
You didn't see that? He poured champagne in his used driver shoe and drank out of it.
My dad told me he drank warm beer out of his army boot once.
Oh well, Mr. Bryan just one-upped him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably watching the show.
If it was warm, then he would be on the same level. But not my dad.
Who knows?
Totally irrelevant to what happened in Germany, but nevertheless, that's Formula One this week. For you.
What's the warmest alcohol related drink you've?
Oh, I don't know.
What's the weirdest thing you've drank out of?
I got to think about this. You know what? I'll do it during the break. When we come back to the other side of the RPF podcast, we're going to talk about some short track racing, not just our very own Wall Stadium Speedway, even though there wasn't much to talk about thanks to Mother Nature, again. We're actually going to talk about some of the things that happened, one off the track, and another one where we don't really have a winner or a loser. We'll tell you more about that when we come back to the RPM podcast. Don't go anywhere.
You're a loser. Got a question you want answered? Email us at racingpodcastnj@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the RPM podcast.
I'm good. Let's go.
I think we caught Sam off guard there.
No, we were just going over some business, and then we had to snap back into it because
Some
you're so good at what you
business.
do. Taking care of some business.
Got kinky real quick around here.
Yeah, it's okay. So, again, I'm Eric Brennan, joined by Sam Ballard, Josh Matthews. Eric Graham will be back next week. Somebody else who had to take care of some business was NASCAR this past week. In fact, a couple of weeks ago when we had the chance
NASCAR
to
again.
talk to – this is more on the short track front.
There you go.
When we talked to Ricky Collins, we were kind of asking his opinion, considering the fact this was a bit of a storyline back in the early months of the year, where he thought – or where he stood on the issue of age and being able to be a professional race car driver, particularly in a big full-bodied stock car. The reason why this became a story was because of a driver who ended up capturing their first official SK, or in our division, it's kind of like a sportsman, modified win at Waterford Speedball back in early July. Here's the story that came down, and I want to credit racedayconnecticut.com or racedayct.com. NASCAR officials confirmed Monday that they have suspended New London Waterford Speedball SK Light modified driver Andrew Moeller indefinitely for providing false age information on a NASCAR license application. Moeller had been temporarily suspended by NASCAR while they investigated issues with his age that came to light after he won his first SK Light modified feature at the Speedball on July 2nd. Mike Moeller, Andrew Moeller's father, insists that his son was born on March 15, 2001 and is 15 years old. The minimum age for NASCAR's learner's permit license that Moeller had been granted is 14 years old. Mike Moeller insists that he has provided NASCAR with a certified birth certificate. NASCAR then issued a statement. Waterford Speedball manager said that it's definitely a load off their shoulders to the racetrack. The NASCAR decided to make their decision. Then we continue on to the fact where there are reports that Moeller may be, in fact, only 13 years old, and it seems like this is something that they would continue to fight if they could, but as the article goes on and on, Mike Moeller says he's not sure what to do next.
Can anyone check, like, school?
What
grade is he in? I mean, now, where was this at? What state?
Waterford Speedball in Connecticut. Not that far.
Okay.
However, it is a NASCAR rule that for their learner's permit, which I didn't even know NASCAR had a learner's permit, this is the first that I'm hearing of that you have to be 14 years of age or higher. So now here in the state of New Jersey, you have to be 16 years or older, and that 16 years comes with a state police investigation and background check, essentially, to make
you
sure
make
that
it sound
race ready.
evil there. They have to approve it.
No,
investigation.
rightfully so. It's how it should be.
Investigation seems like maybe. I mean, it's a correct word, but it seems a little more nefarious than it has to be.
No, I don't think they would allow anybody who had no automotive experience.
But I would say more review.
Yeah. Well, nevertheless,
They review
Jersey
and approve or
is a little more
New Jersey's probably one of the
strict
there you
than
go.
some of the other places.
New Jersey's a pain
Nevertheless,
in the arse.
Regardless, the fact that this is even a question is something that is aggravating. And it takes me back to something that happened probably about a decade or so ago.
Quick, check. Does he have a Facebook or not?
So there you go. That should be it. I mean, just poll his peers.
Are you old enough to be on Facebook?
There was a Little League World Series team out of the Bronx, New York, that went into the Little League World Series. That is, I didn't have to say it twice, but you get where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that their star pitcher lied about his age.
Mm-hmm.
And it led to a big controversy that got drawn out for a couple years. And in fact, to this day, I don't know what happened to the end result. I think that they ended up losing their positioning as in a Little League World Series, and the kid ended up not amounting to anything in terms of stardom. But again, at 13 years old, this is something that has to be driven by the parents. I mean, I don't think the kid would volunteer to say, let's lie about my age so I can get in a big car.
So would you say it's being...
I mean, all the credit due to him. Sorry, Sam.
Very good.
That he was able to perform well in such a big car. That's awesome. That's great that he has such talent at such a young age. But if the rule's the rule,
Exactly, and I feel it. You almost want to say that the kid might be the victim. Now, granted, lying.
He is on Facebook, by the way.
Well,
nickname Skippy.
Well, there you go. Sam
I
Ballard,
got you, Andrew.
the official RPM podcast investigative reporter.
Yeah. Come on, FBI. Step your game up, homie.
NASCAR could have did this.
Just kidding.
I do have a funny story that ties into this. When we bought this house, it had been a rental for, I don't know, like 19 years or something. Well, we'd been here for a couple months. Like, we'd bought the house, we worked on it for 3 months, and we'd been living there for a couple months. And my truck, I'd blown the transmission out of it because I just beat the living hell out of the thing. And O'Shea's Auto Repair was swapping out doing the transmission work for me. Okay, I had gotten a ride up there from my father, and we were going to pick up my truck at night after work. I get a call from my wife. There's 3 cop cars out front looking to arrest one of the former tenants of that, and they're like, they were polite. Everything was, good. They ran all the plates, her car and the work truck I had used, and they like, is anyone here with you? Yeah, my son who's asleep and my dog who's barking at you, and we knew who they asked for because we still get mail from the old tenants. And they said the name, and she told me. I was like, I just searched on Facebook real quick, that same name, moved to Island Heights or something like that, like in October. Like, if they had just gone on Facebook and just entered the name, it would have said move to something, and they would have known, I mean, at least had a clue.
Yeah, it's bizarre that it took them almost a month to hash this out. And again, the other thing is, I mean, if in fact the birth certificate that was submitted to NASCAR is either false or invalid, I have to imagine that is some sort of a crime.
Yeah.
So
Endangerment of a
now
child.
you're really starting to tread the waters of something that's risky business. Now, if it turns out, and this is the other thing, and I link this back to when professional athletes get caught using steroids. If you're innocent, fight to the death, okay? If you have nothing to hide and nothing to conceal, fight it all the way through and don't stop.
I just don't understand why this is, like you said, gone so far. Just show a birth certificate.
Well, apparently, according to Mike Mola, and again, I'm apologizing if I'm saying their name wrong, but according to Andrew's father, they did that. Now, if that information has been falsified or altered, then there's something seriously wrong with this picture. However, if it is
also,
in fact
who's accusing? Who did the initial accusing?
It appeared that once Andrew won, that somebody raised a red flag and said, "There's no way that kid is old enough to drive these cars." Okay. And the Waterford Speedball found himself in an awkward position because they probably don't have the wherewithal or the resources to go into this or look into this.
I can't imagine a short track, having, outside of being owned by Tony Stewart,
exactly
having the financial backing,
So-
or that dump Bowman Gray.
Well, and considering the fact that we've talked many a times about how much a NASCAR sanctioning fee costs certain short tracks, and why some elect to do it and some elect not to do it, this is one of those instances where they may not have had a choice. They were at NASCAR's mercy on how to handle the situation, so they had to go ahead and turn it over to them, and they decided that he falsified documents and he is too young to race, which terrible shame. Not the way you want to start off your professional racing career. I mean, with a kid who looks like he's obviously talented.
It's partially maybe the kid, partially the parents. I mean, I'd like to see exactly where this plays out and who's really at fault.
But I mean, it's just like you hear stories about, overprotective and overbearing parents at Little League games. Now you're hearing it more at quarter midget tracks. And it's just
there's
how
a karting
far
show. There's I forget the name of it. I think Graham.
I think Eric has brought it up before.
Yeah.
Graham, yeah.
And it's, I mean, basically it's
like Honey Boo Boo for go-karts.
Yeah, I mean, there's very little racing shown in the TV program. There's a couple clips of it, but other than it's these they're all from New York, right? It's all
over there.
Yeah, over there. Parents.
Going to start with the stereotypes of us New Yorkers.
Watch this show, and you're going to be embarrassed of your state.
They're my people.
You might lie about your age now.
You're going to lie about your birth origin of.
Yeah, it's going to depend on what part of New York they're from. But yeah, it's terrible. I mean, it seems like now that and granted, a lot of race car drivers today in the premier divisions of motorsports got to where they are in large part because of their parents, whether it be through funding, support. Denny Hamlin's family took out a second mortgage on their home to fund his racing operations.
That's insane.
There are a lot of people who made significant sacrifices to get their kids where they are.
There's a lot of people who lost a
exactly.
lot.
There's a lot of people who did the same thing and it didn't work out, and now they're
I appreciate the passion and trying to support that passion, especially when you think you got something good. But I don't know.
My other thing is, why would NASCAR put themselves in this situation if they said, okay, he's obviously above. I mean, obviously, it may not be as simple as, okay, your birth certificate's right here. Because there's something about the licensing behind
the licensing, yes, but behind for this learner's permit that
Yeah.
they have or what have you.
that the age
So-
was not true on that.
It
Why?
would have had to have been lied about a while
Unless
before.
maybe it's a happy medium, and the birth certificate says that he is of age, but maybe Andrew, for whatever reason, they decided to say he was older, and it's still invalid because of what I don't know. I don't know where the end result is, but listen, to this family, if you're innocent, go fight it, keep going. I mean, what do you have to lose? And if you're guilty, quit while you're ahead, and just take the punishment and wait till he's of age. Till then, there's plenty of other racing avenues you can go. And we'll see the kid rise to stardom if he does in a couple of years or so. Mm-hmm. It's a shame that it came to this. A very bizarre story.
What else? There's another very, very big story that I was excited about.
Yeah, Josh, you actually dug this one up from Speed51.com, and it involves two very well-accomplished late model racers from here in the Northeast. And it was considered to be one of the closest finishes in the Pro All-Star Series, also known as Pass North history, and it was at Oxford Plains Speedway, a track which I know very well. Wayne Hellowell Jr. was declared the unofficial winner after the HP Hood 150 over Joey Pole, also known as Joey Polorchek. But however, after reviewing photo and video evidence, it appeared that on Monday morning, they elected, or in fact, it was series president Tom Mayberry who elected to declare the race a tie.
Now, the backstory is one of the cars, the transponder had failed. It stopped working. It stopped reading for whatever reason, whether it fell off the car, whether the battery died, I don't know. But it wasn't registering when you crossed the line. Now, normally, you'd go by that, and even if it was, very close, I mean, the computer will still tell you who was there first. So they were trying to do the best they could with only one car registering the transponder. So they went back to video evidence, and the issue that they had with the video was that it was roughly 32 feet. I say roughly, and I go to 32, which is, fairly significant.
30 is just about what they're saying. So you're good. You're there.
Before 32 feet before the start-finish line. And they made a statement that would always favor the car on the outside because of the angle. And even if you did have a dead tie. So now I guess everyone in that area has nothing to do on a Monday. Like there's no jobs or anything because apparently they took personal vehicles out on the track and were taking photos from the same spot, trying to recreate the same thing to see who would have been where.
The photos look to be a little rigged though, like the
Well,
cars
they weren't
on
identical
track.
vehicles either.
Yeah.
There was like an SUV and like a sedan.
Now I credit series officials and the track officials at Oxford.
It's a lot of effort to go to, and I appreciate that. That's awesome on their part.
Yeah, because there are many tracks around this country where it is what it is. Tough luck. See you next week.
Yeah, but there's no ties in racing though.
So that's where I struggle with this. It doesn't make sense. I'm not used to seeing a tie in racing. It doesn't happen.
It's like
I think
you
if it's
both win.
a really,
Congratulations.
really rare event, because now, what if, let's say you have spec cars, the distance from the bumper to wherever the transponder is exactly the same, because I mean all guys can, it can be shifted, a couple inches either way, because there's no real specifications. Oh, it must be mounted behind this or something like that. But let's say they are mounted exactly the same position, and the cars actually do cross the line. I mean, it's not physically impossible for two cars to cross the line at the exact same moment in time, as far as the computer will read. I mean, tens, hundred thousandths of a second. What if that happens and the transponders are read at the same exact time? It would have to be declared a tie.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen, even at our local track at Wall Stadium Speedway, we've seen cars run the same lap in qualifying down to the thousandth of a second, but I'd never seen an interval, and I'd have to check with Lisa, who heads up our scoring efforts. I'd never seen an interval on a finish less than a thousandth of a second, which is as far as we could see.
Yeah.
Or perhaps maybe the software does go to the 10,000th and it rounds up to whoever was ahead.
Well, yeah.
Or I don't know. I'm not familiar with how short track timing and scoring
Well,
often
I would
works.
think if that happened and it was on the final lap, it would put one above the other unless it defaults to car number that it orders by, like or like how you might sort by alphabetical or car
Right.
number. It's kind of a sticky thing, but I'm curious about it. I mean, does this become a black and white thing? Does this become something that it has to be a judgment call? I don't know.
But now the issue is, as officials, even in the past, like the past guys are going to have to either, what if this happens again?
That's a fantastic point that your cousin would have made if he was here. Now they've set a precedence.
Exactly.
Now, if you have a photo finish where you have a hard time definitively determining who won or who did win, and granted, something like this has not happened that I can remember. Chances of it ever happening again could be slim. But hell, that week that Austin Dillon went up into the catch fence at Daytona, we saw Ben Kennedy do the same thing at Kentucky 6 days later. Not even, probably 5 days later.
Yeah.
So it can and probably will happen. Now
it may
they've
be
set
a
the
while,
precedent.
but
Wait till Monday, bring the official cars out.
But
and
also,
make a
it
choice?
depends on the series because this is the past series. Are they
Yeah.
NASCAR sanctioned?
I don't believe so. I believe
Okay,
they're separate.
so if it happens in NASCAR, they can handle however the hell NASCAR wants to.
And the thing is, luckily, the past series seems to be well established enough where they can. They didn't split first place prize money. I think they are awarding 2 trophies
Yep.
and the first place prize purse to both drivers.
I don't know about the money, but I know they're each getting a trophy, and they're
And the
each
same
having
points.
the same points, and they're both getting recorded a win.
Right. So they have the wherewithal to do this.
But I mean, as the driver, though, if that was my first career win, I'd kind of be
Well, fortunately,
upset.
Yeah, but at the same time, now you got a
and
place in history
Borchak-
too.
Yeah, we
Because-
tied. I didn't win the race. We tied.
Yeah, but here's
Yes.
the thing. Let's say that I get out there for a couple races this year, and I get my first feature win. Awesome for me, right? My parents and friends. That great, great.
Josh,
We're gonna
Josh.
All right, let's tone it back. Let's make it more realistic here. Yay! All right. But a lot of people are like, okay, that's cool, and I appreciate the people that support me. That's great, but okay, another guy got his first win. Imagine it was a tie. Imagine it was a big controversial event. I mean, think about it. Someone dies. You go through the funeral, the viewing the funeral, all that stuff, and it's sad, and the immediate family is very affected.
Did you just
especially-
compare you winning a feature to someone
He
dying?
did. I'm waiting to see where this
Yeah.
is going.
Pulling
But
it out of
why
your-
not? Like, let's say it was not a sudden, unexpected death, but somebody's had cancer for a while, and you could see the decline, and they pass, and you go through the motions, and then people I'm not saying, I don't want to say move on like it doesn't matter, but life goes on, and we continue our lives. But why not have somebody like hide your body in a junkyard, make it interesting, make it newsworthy?
So you're saying that
I'm saying that when I
You're
die,
saying that-
I want you to hide my body in a junkyard, so people are like, "Wait, what's going on?" And just make
But
it a news story.
what you're saying is
It's going to be more memorable that
okay.
way.
Okay.
It was. I took a very long way around to
Oh,
do
you
it,
did.
but
Oh,
I'm-
you did.
I'm saying, why not make it more interesting? I mean,
Okay.
that would be something that would go down. There would be photos, there would be video. People would talk about it.
But I
Be
guess
part of something.
Here's the only place that I'm a little confused about it, though, is that a handful of minutes ago you made the argument that Chris Buescher winning in a fog and rain shortened race at Pocono was not that big of a deal, even though it was his first career win, and it happened
Because
to be one
we've
of the
had weather
lower
shortened
performing
races
teams.
before.
Right, but it seems like that's a pretty awkward circumstance, and I think it's going to be pretty memorable, and it's going to be hard for a lot of people who witnessed it to forget it. So,
I don't know. To me, it's another weather shortened race, and it happened to be a rookie.
Sadly, it's
I don't
another-
care
it's
that
another
it's-
race of Pocono.
The thing
With
is,
the weather up there.
yes. But I'm just saying, it sounds like there's a double standard there. Like,
all right, my argument. I don't care about who won so much. I don't care if they were a rookie or not,
the
or anything like that.
circumstances.
It's that this was the first tie that I can remember. I mean, we've had close calls. Hell, earlier this year, I think it was, Graham had shown us a picture of, I think, a 3-wide factory stock finish for 10th place.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I remember that.
I think he said only the factory stocks fight this hard for 10th.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know. It's...
And we had to go frame by frame to figure that out.
But
Yeah.
you figured
But
it
it
out,
happens.
though. You guys figured it out.
But
There's
it's also a
difference.
judgment call because you got to think of it. If the first car is blocking the view of the, if the outside car is blocking the view of the inner two,
The view that Brian Hammer set up at Walls is pretty solid. It's
yeah.
pretty
Well,
definitive.
I'm just saying that you can have obstructions, you can have issues,
Yeah.
and you sorted it out with that, and they're looking to sort this out so that it won't happen again. But it's not implausible, not impossible to have something similar or this-
Happen again.
Yeah.
Well-
So, but I'm just saying this is like kind of a landmark, I think, to
Okay.
finish a race in a dead heat like that.
Well, on the fortunately for Joey Pole and Wayne Hellowell, this was neither of their first career wins. In fact, they're both very well accomplished racers up here in the Northeast. They often competed in the past year, in the past tour, as well as the American Canadian Tour. Although
We should
also
get one
known
of
as
them on
ACT. And
next week.
that would be rather interesting if we could pull that off.
Except you won't be here, so
Yeah, well, good luck to
Have
you.
him fill the seat.
Good luck to you guys. So, interesting story, nevertheless. We don't have much time left, and it's probably a good thing because we don't have much to talk about World Stadium Speedway that happened last week. In fact, the best story was the only race of the night, and I want to quote my announcing partner, Jeff Gravatin, saying that Sutphin and Rain won at Wall. And it was great to see Robert Sutphin get back into victory lane in what was the first of what was scheduled to be two Snap-on Tools Sportsman Division races. Sutphin breaking a long dry spell that spanned over a full season, and he ended up getting back to victory lane, one of the 25 lappers. So this
Sam,
week,
did you stay dry in the pits?
I did. I
Did
mean,
you hide in the trailer or what?
no, I hated the trailer. It was. I tried. We tried to get it in.
yeah, no, listen, the track management did everything they could. In fact, I just saw that they posted something on the Wall Stadium Speedway message board thanking the fans, the drivers, the track crew, and everybody for trying to stick it out. I mean, listen, from a business standpoint, I think we've had 5 out of 10 races so far affected by weather, and the car counts were spectacular. I mean, we had 23 sportsmen, 23 factory stocks. I understand a couple of the modified drivers were on vacation. We still had about 14, 15 cars. And for this week, I'm expecting a ton more, considering the fact that it is the Summer Scorcher, where it is supposed to be a $5,000 to win event for the Downs Ford Modifieds. But here's the kicker. There's a rain date posted. So if we do get affected by Mother Nature Saturday night, we will be back at the track on Sunday, which is great to see because I want to see that race kick off without a hitch.
Yeah. No, I'm hoping it goes well. And the factory stocks got moved to what, twin 25s or something?
Well, the factory stocks are going to have a second race.
Their
that
makeup
day.
race is
So
Okay.
they will be running twins. The Elite Main and some of the late models will be in action for the first time, what seems like forever. We will also have the Green Flag Driving Experience Legend cars on the schedule as well. As for the Twin Sportsman events, it will be paired up with the 50-lap factory stock feature for August 13th. Also, First Responders Night. There will also be a doubleheader for the 4-cylinders as they're making up their race for last week. And we also have the Modifieds going back to their regular 40-lap feature. If you want to see the whole schedule, because I'm telling you, the track management did an amazing job trying to piece this all back together and squeeze in some of the races that got moved around by Mother Nature.
Oh, I
simply
can't-
visit wallspeedwayracing.com.
the headaches.
It's like Chinese arithmetic. I don't know how they do it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't want to be their schedule person. I want to help the track, and I'm hoping the podcast is doing it. And
But
yeah.
big props to all them because they had what they were going to do planned out before they even called the race on Saturday. They knew exactly what they were going to do, and when they made the call, they were like, "Okay, but
Right.
we're doing this."
And also for if you have a rain check with you, for whatever reason, you know someone who does, you can bring it this week. However, you will have to pay the difference with it being a huge modified race for the season. There will be a $4 additional charge, or you can just save the rain check for any regular season race for the rest of the year. That also excludes the Woody's High Banks 105 that will take place towards the end of August.
But you should come out because one of my favorite race weekends coming up, and then we got the Woody High Banks, like you said, 2 great weekends.
Yeah, that's the other race that I won't be there. However, I won't pull a DB move and pray for rain because apparently it worked last time. So
is Earl going to be back?
Earl will be back this week from his stint in Pocono. Another extra 3-day weekend for him. In fact, it was a 4-day weekend.
and
He
you're
was
gonna be,
there since Friday.
Gary's bitch again?
Always. Never changes. On the national schedule, IMSA is at Road America this weekend. The NASCAR Sprint Cup and Xfinity Series is on the road course for the final time. In fact, final time for the Cup Series. It is the first time for the Xfinity Series. First of 3 races that will be coming up in a few weeks on the Twisties. That is at
I'm here,
Watkins
bitches.
Glen. No, you're not, Eric, but you will be back. The NHRA is in Seattle, Washington. Also, best get well wishes to Alexis DeJoria, who broke a pelvis in a crash this past weekend. That may jeopardize her championship hopes. We'll keep you posted on that. And as we mentioned, Formula One and IndyCar off for the next few weeks. I think that's pretty much it.
Who was it that got never mind, you already said it.
Alexis DeJoria was the one who got banged up. Yeah, bizarre accident for her after she slapped the wall with the left side in her lane while they were racing in Sonoma. Also, John Force trying to sweep the Western Swing this weekend after winning twice in FunnyCar.
He had a little downtime. It seemed,
it's
and
good
then
seeing him win
him got back up into winning.
We also saw J.R. Todd get the win, I think, for Coletta Motorsports and Top Fuel, and they have one of the best celebrations you will ever see. They literally form a mosh pit, and your job is to punch somebody in the gut. And that's all they do, is just pile on each other and swing. And it's pretty fun to watch.
Sounds like a night with you guys.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Except we're aiming for faces. That happens. It's going to happen. I'm coming for you, Graham.
That explains why Brendan looks the way he does.
Oh, we're going to go there.
Sad panda.
We're going to go there. Well, I don't know if I learned anything this podcast. How about you guys?
I learned a lot.
Like? You got to think about it, don't you?
Mute me, Josh.
It's tough. I don't know. The one thing that I possibly learned is the fact that Eric Graham has a very early bedtime, and he's not easy to forgive if you show up late to the party. So that's what I got. One more zinger before we go, Graham.
Well, no. Sam is in charge of the zingers.
I'm here, bitches.
I learned that no matter what we do, we still finish recording really late. And
and you can't lie on your NASCAR license of your age.
There you go.
There you go.
Is rule number one. If you are a young and up-and-coming racer.
Got to cross that off my bucket list.
I also learned a few new things that Eric likes.
Like what?
Oh, don't worry.
What kind of joke is this? I'm very confused.
Just end the show.
You'll hear next week. You'll hear in the next week or two.
I'm not happy.
Few new things that you're big fans of.
Oh, is this about a Mikhail Lotion?
No.
I love that little Russian kid. No, he's not a kid. We gotta
He's
go.
a man.
I gotta go home.
He had a beard.
On behalf of Eric Graham, who's absent tonight, but he'll be driving the boat next week. Our buddy Josh Matthews, who mixes everything together for us on the boards, and here at the Matthews Family Studios,
driving
our
the
man
motorboat.
Sam Ballard Jr., the newest member of the RPM podcast family. We also want to thank our sponsors, Ace and the Whole Landscaping, SR Fabrications, got it right this time, and of course O'Shea Auto Repair for helping us out. Don't forget to check us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, you name it. We got all sorts of avenues to get us in here. If you want to be on the show, get in touch with one of us. I don't know what else to say at this point, except I need to go home and go to bed. So we'll see you next week on the RPM podcast.
We
Good
need
night,
to
everybody.
share their links. We need to get their links and share them on the Facebook page or something.
We do. We're going to work on that now.
Yeah. We need a website and an app.
Go
you
to
guys
Wall.
want to fund that. Yeah. Hey,
Crawl
that's
be-
my line, you little...
Crawl before you
I'm
can
muting
walk.
him. There you go. Just like his cousin, he's muted.
Good night, everybody.
Go to Wall.